All right. Well, welcome to the very first idea share of 2022. So it's the first Monday. It's January 3rd. I don't know about you, but perhaps some of us are still in vacay mode. I don't know. Yeah, it's been an interesting couple of weeks, hasn't it? I mean, I don't know. I'm looking around and I know a few of us are definitely in areas where the Rona is back and it's messing with stuff big time. So would anybody like, yeah, Allison.
Okay, but I have to share the best news.
Yes, please.
Best news. My mum made it over from the UK for 8 days.
Oh, that's wonderful.
We've been together since 2019.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna cry. That's amazing. Oh, that's so wonderful. Oh, that's great.
So we'll start with the good news, then we can share how everything else is
going. Yes. Oh, that makes me really, really happy.
And she only had to have 4 COVID tests over 8 days in order to get where she needed to get to.
Yes, I'm supposed to see my mom next week, and it's been not that long, but it's been, it's been since July. And so, yes, yeah, that's awesome. Okay. All right. Well, that's cool. Nobody can top that for good news, but let's talk about how things are going. Sylvia, did you end up having in person? 2 times. Yeah. Yeah. All right. How did it go?
Amazingly well.
Okay.
Everybody had to be masked and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up being hybrid.
Okay.
Because we had in person and virtual. So we had all of my classrooms were hooked up so that we could do it. And I was in person, and I had 2 teachers that were at home.
Okay.
So 2 assistants that were at home just in case, because Wi-Fi in the building.
Yeah.
And we anticipate
relatable.
That, the number of people that come in and try to access everything. And so everybody had their lessons pulled up so that if I had a problem, that any one of the other 2 teachers that I had could take over immediately so that there wouldn't be any breakdown. And it would go in and out. That first Sunday, it went in and out a little bit on my first at the 9 o'clock service. The second Sunday that we were there, the 11:30 service was perfect. There were no interruptions, no anything. Everybody had the lessons and everything. I would have like 2 or 3 participants come in person, and then the other 9 or 10 people were on Zoom.
Okay.
And we did the same old thing that we always done. It just, it was just some of y'all are there and some of y'all are right here.
Yep.
Kind of thing. And then, if the ones that had come in person, I had like activity sheets that they could do, or they were in a sensory room or whatever. It went okay. And then the number shot back up to like we have 6,000 to 10,000 people now testing. And then it's snowing. We have like 6 or 8 inches of snow.
I know. I've been getting pictures texted to me. Both my brother and sister live near you, and so their kids were very excited because they were supposed to go back to school today, but they have a snow day instead. So, yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great report. I mean, we're happy you got 2 in-person days. I love the model that you have of you were there in person and you had people, in charge on Zoom in case your connection failed, because that's a very relatable problem to have. And actually, I forgot to introduce myself, and so just for the recording I will, but Beth Golick from Key Ministry and Catherine Boyle from Key Ministry is here as well. And as you all know, sometimes one of our connections fails, and so usually Catherine's. And so we tag team it as well sometimes. So, all right. Well, that was, I'm glad to hear from you, and I'm glad you're here this morning, Sylvia. Meekins, you got to have your extravaganza.
Oh my goodness, was that quite the vortex? And it was wonderful. And, you know, we looked around, there were 3 people with disabilities in that show. And so, you know, of course, I'm always scheming about, okay, how can we get more, you know, in there? But it was precious to watch those who don't have disabilities. And there was a lot of young folks in there, a lot of, you know, college student age range. And they were so loving on the kids, some of them were adults. Actually, all
Everyone's a
3 of
kid to
them,
us,
all
yeah.
3 of them were adults, but how they loved on them, you know, because one of them was a little bit more in your face kind of girl and had to be talked to in a gentle and loving but firm way about what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. And we all were in it, you know, to do that, you know, because there are those of us who are moms already, so we already know how to do that. And also, and dads. And but it was just precious. It was a very precious thing to see. And then to see the end product of those precious 3 young women, and very different, very, very different women, but they were just so into it, and they were accepted, and they were loved, and it was exactly the way that God would want it to be.
That's
So it was precious. Yes, yes. And I'm still reeling from the fact that I actually got words to speak, and I've never done anything like that in my entire life. And so it was a little stressful at the beginning, but by the end show, because how many shows did we do? Like 10 or?
Well, 7 paid, but 9.
Yeah, full shows. And by the time we were done, I was like, oh, this is easy. But at the beginning, it wasn't so easy. So anyway, it was great fun. And it was just a wonderful thing to see the community come together to do that. And I think we had a good attendance rate. We were shocked when the lights came up and we saw how many people were in the audience, because we thought for sure it was going to be pretty sparse, but it was not. It was not sparse. For better or for worse, it was not sparse. So it was great fun.
That's awesome. Well, I saw some of the pictures on Facebook, and it just looked amazing. So great.
Well, if anybody wants to watch it, it is on what, watchtrbc.org or something like that.
Watch.trbc.org, and just scroll down to the Virginia Christmas Spectacular.
It's an excellent message for these times, because there's a great deal of talk about suffering, but how you can have Christ in your suffering and get through life. It was that story made the cast cry every single show, and we knew it inside and out, but we cried every single.
I still had to have a tissue in my pocket, in my costume pocket.
And Amy,
you know, it's an impactful message if you're hearing it multiple times and still being,
Yes, and the talent is absolutely outstanding. And Amy and Tom were in just about every single scene that there was that wasn't major dancing.
Yeah, we were the male. I was a mailman, and she was my male assistant. So we sort of threaded throughout the play.
It was fun.
Very
Okay.
cool. Very
Enough
cool.
about us.
Catherine has put the URL in the chat, so it's watch.trbc.org. So I encourage everyone to check that out. All right. Who else would, you guys are muted. Yeah. Do you have Tom?
I just said, I scroll down until you see.
Oh, and then scroll down.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Virginia Christmas
Spectacular. And this one was called Christmas in Candler. Christmas in Candler. There are other ones from previous years, but this one's Christmas in Candler.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Who else would like to share? What's going on? Al, Happy New Year.
I'm in New Jersey. Again, we're kind of the center of COVID next round right now. My son started back at school virtually today. He has a week. We were able to line up help. So there's one of his workers is working with him this week, but hopefully it's just this week. From people I'm talking to in New Jersey, it's varying. Newark and some of the big cities are all virtual right now. Others are in person. Right now, my wife is at school where she's an aide. My daughter is at school in person. We hopefully that stays in person, but it could change very quickly. During Christmas, I was involved with a 2-night live nativity scene, and it was very last minute I joined that effort, but I was really glad I did. We had 400 cars each night, about for during a 3.5 hour actually, was open half an hour before they announced it. But it was, but yeah, we had over a couple of thousand people came through. There were some with disabilities as well. It wasn't a disability event per se, but a drive-through event does allow for that. And I saw a number of people with disabilities. So it's already in the works for next year. They said they're going to do it too. So it was cold, kind of like Night to Shine, the drive-through last year, but it was well worth doing. And it was, a good church unity event kind of thing. And definitely a lot of people went through that. So that was good.
That's great. And just, any way we can get the message out, and that's like a kind of a unique way, and you might get people that otherwise wouldn't step in the door of the church possibly. So very cool.
It's a big campus, so it helps being a big campus, being able to have a long drive through. Not every church can do that kind of thing, but it's, it was good to be part of that.
And are you is that church hosting a shine through in February?
No, they're not. It's actually, they do buddy break there, and I bring my son there every Sunday now for a special needs class. So they're starting a parents group as well this month, I think, support group. So they're, trying to get back into some of their disability projects.
Great. Thank you. Who else would like to share? Diana, what's going on in Texas?
Oh, well, it's interesting in Texas, but I'll do a brief on that, but I also wanted to make sure that we had time to talk today. I've been really anxious to hear about your sensory friendly Christmas Eve service. I've already started the groundwork and the talking. I knew we couldn't pull it off this year, but already have it in the works for what we can do next year. So I do want to hear about that. But yeah, Texas is kind of interesting. I mean, the cases are going up, but the schools are opening. My daughter's a teacher. She went back to class today in person only. In terms of our church, we are actually adding a Sunday service starting this next week. So we'll go back to having 1 on Saturday and 4 on Sunday, because attendance has been increasing with about half of the people wearing masks. But our disability ministry has not seen the comeback as the other areas. There's still hesitancy and there's still regression with kids. Parents are frustrated. I'm trying to really tell the parents, don't worry, this is affecting everyone. Your child isn't going to be doing anything that's any different than half the other kids, when they come back with some of the regressed behaviors. But it was interesting, and I'm actually making chili right now. It's on the stove. Our lead pastor and his wife are both home with COVID. So I don't know how that's going to change things, as well as our lead worship pastor is out with COVID. And I've heard that it's kind of starting to hit. So Human Resources has put out an email. We've all were closed last week, just saying they're updating our new COVID practices. And then I heard on the news briefly this morning that now they're thinking about, they went from the 10-day quarantine to the 5-day quarantine, the CDC, that now they're thinking, they're looking at all these increases. And I heard just this morning that they're looking at going back to a longer quarantine. So I don't know how that's going to affect any of us. But I do want to, we are going to still do our Shine Through Parade. So we've got that going, and hopefully down here in Texas, it won't be the cold weather, but we don't know it. It was down to 26 this morning. So. Oh,
wow. That's cold. That's like Cleveland.
Yeah, it's cold today, and it's going to drop again tonight. But, we're kind of used to that kind of thing, because it always warms up during the day. So, last year we had an unusual snow blast. And so we're just hoping everything looks like it's going good. I also want to hear any ideas that anyone else has as we're pulling into this final 5 or 6 weeks before the Shine Through. If anyone's got, I did see that the Tim Tebow Foundation, posted a whole list of things, at least our rep did, which are all good. We can't do all of them, but I'm still looking at this being our first one, what we can do, and then start planning for our sensory-friendly Christmas service. So, and even thinking about an Easter service that's sensory
Yes.
friendly.
Okay, we need to plan that because,
Okay.
so I will fill you in on what happened with ours, but really quickly. So for those of you who don't know, I mean, I think most people know, but I am the director of the special needs ministry at my church in Cleveland. And we are doing a night to shine through. We did get the Cleveland Browns mascot, Chomp, he's going to be at our shine through. So there's an idea, as a team mascot. We're getting one of the local high schools, they have they're called the Rockettes. So they're like I think they're like the dance team kick line. Yeah, Catherine's doing the motions. Yes. So we'll have that. And we do have a DJ. I don't know how all that's going to work because, the weather's going to be, but anyway. So that's what we're doing. I'm going to step away from my camera for 2 seconds while I grab a visual aid so I can talk about the sensory friendly service. So hang on. Okay. So, my church what we planned was a sensory friendly Christmas Eve service. So it was an opportunity to welcome families, not just from our church, but welcome families in the community. And we kind of pitched it as just a place where you can be comfortable to come. Like, we'll keep the sound low, we'll keep the lights on, you can dance, vocalize, whatever, like no judgment. And we were so excited about it and planned the whole thing. And then too many people were exposed to COVID, like the days leading, including people on our staff. And so we made the decision to, instead of doing it as a live in-person thing, and you guys, we had this awesome setup. We had chairs set up, but then right in front of the stage, we had like rugs and couches. I mean, it was going to be so cool. So anyway, we were not able to do it in person and invite families in the building, but we did instead do the service to an empty, like earlier in the day, we recorded it just to an empty, we just recorded it. And then we made it available on the church website for families to watch at their leisure. And we gave them, they could stop by and pick up, we had these goodie bags that were filled with the props that they would, not props, but like the manipulatives that they would do with us in the service. And I thought I just grabbed my bag because I thought maybe I didn't bring it home, but we'd had like there were scarves in there. So one of the activities, we used a scarf. Oh, and then we told the Christmas story, but we know that the Christmas story goes back all the way to creation. So they got this, so it was an opportunity to do the timeline of creation, the fall, and then God's rescue plan. So they had that in their bag. I think I had the menu and everything in here, but apparently I did not. Let's see. There was like a sticker set in there so they could do the little nativity sticker scene with us. There was a squishy ball, a little earth globe squishy ball. So when I talked about creation, I had them squish it and we talked about, each kind of step of creation. Oh, here it is. So this is the menu that they would have been given. So it was just the way the service, sorry, it's really hard to put this up on your camera. The way the service was set up, there were like, I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8 different sections. So creation, the fall, God's rescue plan, and then an angel visits Mary, Jesus is born, go tell, and then kind of the wrap up, which is I'm part of God's big story. Very much based on the Jesus Storybook Bible telling of the Christmas story. Also, each section, or almost each section, had a part where they listened to the story. And so that was either the pastor or me or a tag team kind of telling that part of the story. And then it says your turn. And that's where they do the, whatever the activity is with the item that's in their bag. And then respond with worship. And so then that was a song. And the music was, there were 2 videos. 2 of the songs were videos. A few of the songs were piano and violin. And then one of the songs, one of the students in my adult class sang Mary, Did You Know? And she did a phenomenal job. So that's basically what it was. And you're welcome to go watch it if you want. It was 45 minutes, which is long, I think, to watch on a website. I think in person, it would have been very interactive and all that. But yeah, well, thank you, Meekins. I'm happy to share. The script is very heavily borrowed from Jesus Storybook Bible. And we note that, like we have the Jesus Storybook Bible on the stage and all that. But so yes, Diana, I would definitely want to try this again. So, we made the decision. That was like the most stressful day. So we made the decision that morning at 10:30 or something, not to meet in person. And it was, there was a whole lot going on. And a member of the children's ministry team had tested positive. And the next day, Christmas Eve, we all were supposed to be in a live, like skit, not as big as the Meekins Virginia Christmas Spectacular, but a small version of a live Christmas Eve service. And we had to cancel that. I mean, it was not a fun day or two. But we tried to get the word out to everybody and invited them to come by the church during, a specific time period to pick up goodie bags. And 17 families did come by and pick up goodie bags. 2 of them hadn't gotten the word that it was canceled. So 2 of the families came because they thought they were coming to the thing, which, was fine. We were there, we met them outside and told them and gave them the bags. But the families that showed up to get the goodie bags, like some of those really surprised me. So it made me think like this would have been well attended because we invited all the respite families, majority of whom are not, do not attend our church. We put the word out to the community. One of the families that came because we invited them during that Santa visit thing. I don't know if I told you guys about that, but just a community Santa thing. We provided volunteers. And anyway, I feel like it was needed and it would have been really well received had we been able to actually do it. So yes. So yes, if you want to see it, it's actually on the special needs page of the Bay Pres website, which is just baypres.org/special needs. And then you can find the Vimeo link on there. But yeah, I think we need to brainstorm something like this for Easter. So it's a great outreach opportunity. I mean, yes, it's serving the families that are in your church, but I think it's a really great way to get the message out. Sorry, thank you for letting me. It was, I have to say, and I know like we're all in the same boat, but to work so hard on something and then for it not to take place, so between this and then the Christmas Eve, like we had to, the children's ministry team had to memorize lines. Usually we use teleprompters, but we had to memorize lines. So it was like a big deal. And it was like, we kind of were grieving over not being able to do it. As it turns out, this Christmas Eve thing ended up getting recorded. So that's good. But anyway, that's me.
Well, I think it sounds like you guys handled it really well. I mean, that is really upsetting. You worked so hard and you couldn't do it. But now that it is recorded for other churches that want to learn from you, it's going to be there for forever. And
That's true.
that is your Corona blessing in that.
There you go.
Yeah, because what a better way to learn than be able to see it. So I'm sorry you guys didn't get to do it. I have absolutely no doubt if you do it for Easter or whenever we're back to normal someday, you'll have a great attendance. But I think the whole key right now to this whole season is being flexible.
Yeah.
And you did a great job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So speaking of what can we do right now? So I think, we were scheduled to have a respite event this month.
Mm-hmm.
And I think given the way the numbers are right now, I think I'm going to postpone it because I match up every volunteer with a guest. And it's just so iffy right now because it's just like people are literally getting exposed and tested and waiting on tests and all that. So I think it's just wise to postpone. But that's another, that's heartbreaking. It really is. It'll be heartbreaking for my volunteers and definitely for the families. So, yeah, Allison.
Yes, I'm in the same position. I'm supposed to have one this Saturday. So I'm looking into a couple of options. I'm like, okay, we can't meet in person. What's in our toolkit that we now have available?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go back to the drive-through pizza pickup, but we're going to make it a theme of The Incredibles and then have people dressed up and give out stuff to do with The Incredibles, see how many kids will dress up. And then we're either, and I'm looking at the weather and it's a little bit iffy, going to have an outdoor movie night where they can either drive in or I don't think we quite have the capability for physical drive-in and tuning in on the radio, but or they can be outdoors. Or we'll do and I have done this before and it works well, just through Zoom, doing a screen share and just doing it with the kids and getting them all on. So I've already had a few families that are like, yay, I'm glad we're able to do something. I know we can't be together. And same thing, because I keep having, thank the Lord, people keep testing positive before they come to respite.
Yeah.
I've had 3 severe cases where literally it was like an hour before they're like, oh, actually, and I'm like, thank you for not coming and thank you for testing before.
Yeah.
But yeah. And that weighed heavily on my heart as to whether or not we could meet, whether we should meet, whether it's like you say, you've got, we've been able to meet in person gradually and I've extended it. And Christmas, we did have 40 children and about 28 or so volunteers. And it kind of felt a little stressful, but I kind of kept everybody in like little groups of like 15 doing their own thing in a different area of church and just sort of moved around. But yeah, it's daunting.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I guess, so this is encouraging to me because, I've pretty much decided that I have to cancel it. But this is encouraging me to try to do something in its place. So thank you.
And I was grateful because I reached out to my coordinators and I was like, okay, how do you feel? Do we do that? And my alternative was, if we do something inside, we can only invite a very small number of people.
Right.
And they were like, well, if you do a drive-through, you can invite more people. And I was like, actually, there is a blessing in that yes, it's not an in-person respite where you can go and you get that space, but if you're still being blessed upon and it's a chance to get out in the car and it's yeah, it's different blessings. It's all the Corona blessings that we can share in different ways, right? Without sharing Corona.
Kind of getting sick of the pandemic blessings, to be honest, but you know, we'll take
Oh, no,
them. Okay, we'll take them.
My favorite New Year line, somebody said, let's pray that Jesus is spread like Omicron is spread. It's like, okay.
Good. I like it. I like it. Oh, all right. Who else would like to share? Anyone? Yes, Meekins.
There we go. We got too many hands at the unmute. So one thing that has been a blessing to me is that back, and this lady lives in Pennsylvania, but I don't know what part of Pennsylvania. But there's a lady who contacted us because she found our website, and she has been pretty much virtually alone in raising her special needs child for, I think he might be 8 or 9 years old now, and she has older children as well who are coming into adulthood and college area and all that. But this woman has been extremely lonely in her position. And she reached out a little scared to do so because she doesn't know us. And this was months ago, like probably 3 months ago. And so we did as much as we could to love on her, offered her a Zoom call, and it was a wonderful Zoom call. And she was like apologizing for venting. And we're like, that's what we do. That's why we're here, you know, and who's going to know and understand that better than another special needs family? Well, just recently, she wrote back again, and I've checked on her from time to time, but you have to be very delicate with that. You all know that. I'm preaching to the choir here. And so, but then she responded just before Christmas and she said that it's time for me to do something. You know, I've been concentrating on my other children, but it's time for me now to really, she needed to fill herself because she's been depleted. And in fact, I even wrote a blog post about it that's coming out in the next couple of days, because there are too many of these kinds of moms out there that are completely depleted and they don't know about us. They don't know that they can tap into resources. So we recommended Diane Kim's book, and we recommended Sandra Peoples' book. And, you know, and I did that 3 months ago. And I thought if she could just read these books, she would know that she's not alone and that the feelings that she has, she doesn't need to berate herself for. And that's what we do, right? We feel bad as believers. We feel like if we have any kind of negative anything that comes across our emotions, then there's something wrong with us and we're not good Christian people, you know? And so, you know, just to help her understand, you get to have those feelings. They are true and they are from God, and it's okay to have those feelings. And then what do you do about it? And here's 2 women who have done an amazing job at writing into that heart, you know, and really helping them to understand God in that. And so she got the books, and she said she devoured. That was her word. She devoured them.
I love it.
Within like days after she got them. And so I just want you to know, everybody that's on this call and anybody that watches it, what we do matters. And you never know where those people are. So the more we do it, the more people can be encouraged in their walk with the Lord. And so, and our goal for 2022 is to really expand what we do offer, you know, because our ministry isn't exclusive to a church, although we do a lot in our church because we love to, but it's also can be worldwide. So we need, and it had been when it was a business, and then we realized it wasn't a business, it was really a ministry, when the business went belly up. So, but God does that. He uses those kinds of things and he helps you to understand where he wants you to be. And so we're excited about that expansion because we know there's going to be more Beverlys.
Yeah, and also the neat thing about this too is she's going to bring her husband into a Zoom call with us too.
Yes.
And we find that us fathers are usually the last ones to realize that we need help. And what guy asks for help, you know? So
Not many. Yeah.
That's amazing. How did Beverly find you? Do you know?
She said she went searching for some kind of help and our website came up in her search.
That's
So
fantastic.
that's probably due to our son who knows how to do that what is it
SEO.
called?
Search engine, SEO or
Whatever that's called.
search
Yeah.
engine
Engine
Yeah.
optimization.
optimization. There
Yeah,
you go.
so he's in his 20s and he understands that, and he's our website designer, and he keeps it up going and keeps it present and keeps it live. And so it's really due to him probably that he's got those right hashtags or whatever it is that you call those things, to catch people. So we need to pray that, I guess, for all of us, that we can catch those people, and we do, out there that are they're just languishing and they're not getting the support that they need. And I know we all have a heart for that. But that was a huge blessing and a real wake up call, I think, for us to realize there are a lot more of those ladies out there, and men and families that are floundering.
Right. Thank you. That's just, first of all, that's really great news that you were able to reach Beverly, and just, yeah, such a good reminder for all of us. Would anybody else like to share what their ministry goals are for this year? Barb.
Well, for our Wonderful Works ministry, we will be getting our 501c3. I'm getting ready to see where we are with the lawyer on that process. We have our first board meeting in January. So our goals is the same as Meakin's. We want to continue expanding our impact and reaching more people and inviting more people in to share their stories and share their skills. And we are actually going to be doing for our next interview, it's going to be with Al and some of his friends on fathers, from a father's perspective, because like you said, families need help. It's not just the moms, it's the dads too. And we don't talk enough about that. So we're just really excited, and we have some plans, and we'll just see where God leads us and when we come into funding to start those. So it should be an exciting year. We're excited.
That is exciting. And I love everything that you do. So I'm excited to see what in the weeks and months ahead.
Thank you. And the other thing too, like we would love to partner with other ministries too. That is another goal for us, because I really feel like the more I do this, the more I just feel this is not about our organization. It is about the mission. And the more we come together and collaborate, I just really feel like 2022 is going to be a big year for disability ministry. I don't know why. I just can't shake that. I think this is going to be our year. So
that is a good jumping board. I'm going to turn it over. Catherine, would you like to share a little bit about the goals? Are you frozen? Oh no, she's frozen. I thought she was being very studious over there. Okay, she is frozen. So darn it. Okay, and I don't have it in front of me, but we would like to share about what Key Ministry has planned, what our goals are for this year. And of course, I don't have it in front of me, but okay, she's jumping back on. Hang on. We will wait for Catherine to jump back on. And Catherine, are you back? No. See, this is why we tag team, although apparently I wasn't prepared for the tag team. Well, as you all know, oh, there she is. Okay. I turned it over to you and you were frozen.
Wow, what a concept, right?
Yeah.
Like, how could that ever happen?
Right. So Barb gave us a really good jumping off point to talk about what Key Ministry has planned. I don't know when you got frozen, but she was talking about how she really has this feeling like this is the year for disability ministry. And so that is, so if you'd like to share what Key Ministry has planned and what our goals are.
Yep. And I already had a conversation about this with somebody new today. So this is awesome getting to talk about it twice. So we went through a little time, really seeking God as a team, for where we believe that he's leading Key Ministry over the next really up to 3 years. And so we landed on 3 pretty big goals, and then, just another one about sustaining our organization. But, and I can type these up and send them to you if it's helpful. And just so you know, we also talked about this a little bit last month when we had something that was a little different than our normal idea share. But the 3 things that we landed on as a team are that we would like to find, empower, and resource individuals with disabilities and families impacted by disability to do ministry. Because every single one of us here has been impacted, and we took what experiences we had and the passions that God had given us, and now we're all working in this ministry field in some capacity. There's many more people like us that are out there. I mean, Julie, you were talking about this lady, I think you said her name was Beverly. I mean, she sounds like, you know, somebody who's along that process. She's not as far along as she is, you know, will be when she's ready to do ministry. She needs to be fed first, but I will not be shocked to hear in a year or 2 years that she's doing something new on her own in her area. So that's the first one. And the second one is advancing the disability ministry movement by expanding mental health ministry, intentionally networking outside disability ministry circles, and collaborating with other ministries. So, you know, mental health ministry is something that is somewhat unique to what we do, because not every ministry talks about that aspect of, you know, either that there are disabilities that are hidden that are mental health disabilities, or the mental health impacts of, you know, being a caregiver for someone with disability. An example that I gave this morning in conversation about intentionally networking outside of disability ministry circles to advance the movement. And this is just me thinking off the top of my head. My husband has volunteered with 8 Days of Hope before. If you're familiar with them, or if you're not, they are an organization that gathers volunteers and supplies, and they go in after there's been a natural disaster and they rebuild homes and businesses and churches. And they do a phenomenal job. My husband has volunteered on a lot of these kinds of things, and he said he has never seen the kind of organization that they have. And I mean, his experience working with them on a project was truly life-changing for the family that he was assigned, you know, where he was assigned to rebuild their part of their home after Hurricane Harvey in Texas. So what do we hear from caregivers a lot? You know, we hear about how not only is there the services cliff when children age out of the, you know, the services provided by state, local, federal government, and a lot of the agencies, you know, the NGOs that are there to help. But we hear about the need for homes for children, you know, as their parents grow older. So that right there, man, I think an organization like 8 Days of Hope could really help make a big dent in something like this. I have not reached out to them yet, but to me, that seems like a no-brainer. You know, let's get somebody who knows how to problem solve in an area where there's a construction need involved in something disability related where there's a construction need. So that's just one example that I give you of intentionally networking outside of your normal circles to see if you can't come up with some creative problem solving and collaborations. All right, so that's number 2. Number 3.
Wait, can I say one more thing about number 2? Also, the key ministry staff team will be at the Children's Pastors Conference in Orlando next week. And that's another way that we're kind of reaching out beyond the disability ministry circle and advancing the movement, you know, through new audiences.
And hey, Beth, I don't know if you have looked at like the roster or the schedule very much, but it's been at least a month since I did that. But it was great because there are, you know, a variety of people speaking into disability issues as related to children's ministry, but it's not a ton. And, you know, you don't expect it to be the whole program by any means. But I was really happy to see that we are far from being the only ones, but it's still a very, very small number of speakers and sessions that are dealing with this topic. So, okay, and then the third thing is disseminate transformational proprietary content to ministry leaders and families impacted by disability to meet real needs and advance Jesus's kingdom. So from where we sit, we have all kinds of content. So we're going to be spending a lot of time pulling nuggets out of all the content that we've already created to create tools, downloadables, things that are free, things that are not free, ebooks, what have you, to help, get tangible things in the hands of ministry leaders and people who want to do ministry, whether it's in their home, in their neighborhood, or in their church, so that, when people have a question, we've got a tool that they can put their hands on and say, oh yeah, okay, I can do X, Y, and Z, or this makes me think about A, B, and C. So that's a big focus for us too. And then the last goal is just for us is about making sure that we sustain ourselves as a ministry long-term. So again, I'm happy to send each of these out because I know it's a lot of words.
All right, thank you, Catherine. Any questions or anybody else want to share anything that's going on? Yes, Diana.
I have a question. They're redoing some things at our church, and since I've been there, which has been 14 plus, well, going on 15 years, it's always been called, we have a little name for our ministry, special needs. It's called Access Special Needs. And it's because we want everyone to have access to what everyone has and blah, blah, blah. We are having, I don't know, our website is horrible. Like if you went to my church website, you wouldn't even think we had any special needs ministry. But as they are looking at making things better, and I keep popping up my head and saying, they're trying to say, do you need more things for your sensory rooms? No, I need more communication. I mean, we can make do with what we have. Don't spend money on that. And so that's my goal for this year, is to really work at, again, reaching out to the community. We were there at one point and then lots of changes happened. But one of the questions that's come up is, and I've heard it here a lot, and I've brought it up with, some of the team, is that we've always called it special needs ministry, but is there a swing to more churches calling it disability ministry versus special needs ministry? I know it's come up in this group before, and I've brought it up and I said, I don't know, but since we're making changes, is that something we want to change in our communication? Thoughts in our last couple minutes?
I have thoughts. Does anybody else want to jump in first? Nobody wants to touch it. Al?
Yeah, I've had this debate a number of times. And, one church we worked with really pushed special needs. It seems like those with disabilities are generally want disability, from what I'm getting, because, and there's still debate, but at this point I'm using disability more just because from what I'm reading and seminars I'm listening to and things like that, it seems like that's what is desired. Again, that's debatable, but I've switched in my writing and other things to disability primarily because of things I'm listening to and reading and things like that.
My 2 cents, I definitely have, Bob, do you want to go first?
All right. Just my 2 cents worth
Yeah.
too, working with national organizations and even local organizations and having a disability myself. I would agree with that the new vernacular seems to be disability as opposed to special needs.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll add my 2 cents on that. So after talking with lots of individuals and organizations, and wanting to be respectful for each person's, perspective and their identification. Personally, I use kind of a variety of terms, and here's why. I think what we're talking about is disability inclusion ministry. Okay, so I tend to use that term a lot. And I absolutely 100%, understand that there are people who do not like the term special needs. I also 100% understand that there are people who that is the term that they identify with for their family situation. And so I want to be respectful of everybody's perspective and identification. And so at our church, I talk about disability inclusion ministry and, including people with disabilities, but I still use the term special needs ministry when identifying this one part of disability inclusion ministry that happens to be the piece that I'm in charge of at my church, because the families that are coming to our church are coming because we have and I'm air quoting here, special needs ministry. So that's the term, talk about the SEO thing. That's the term they're searching on. And that's what they're identifying. They want a class for their child. So this is not necessarily like an adult who has a disability probably is not going to search special needs ministry to find our church, but I want them to search and see on our website that we are a welcoming church, that we have, certain things in place and all that. We also have a special needs ministry. So Catherine has put in the chat that we, meaning Key Ministry, has been using disability inclusion much more in the past year or so in our social media and blogs, et cetera, to make sure we're capturing the terms that are in use. Yeah. So again, this partly has to do with your geography and other things, but I see both terms being used. And so I use both terms. Now, I understand that's not going to make probably anyone happy. It's not going to make everybody happy. When I speak at conferences, I now say, I'm going to use these terms and I'm going to use them kind of interchangeably, but feel free to filter them out and plug in whatever works best for your ministry context. So that's personally how I'm handling it. And it's kind of what Key Ministry is doing as well, using multiple terms, although we tend to use disability inclusion ministry more with Key Ministry and special needs ministry more in my role at the church.
Okay, all of that is very, very helpful. And because one of the things that we will be doing is we have a very awful phone situation when you call our church. Even myself, if I'm working from home and I need to talk to someone, I feel like I just want to throw the phone because I can't get through to anybody that I want to. And you have to listen to all these options. And one of the options is special needs. And that's all that it says. And so my phone, I get messages for people looking for a realtor. That's their special need. They're not part of the community. So they listen to the menu and they're like, it's just completely off. We sit and we laugh at some of the messages that I get because we know people are just listening to that menu and hitting it. So I'm going to definitely make sure it's clear.
Yeah.
For that. So when we know we are capturing the correct audience, I always call everybody back, but
yeah.
And then educate them on, what disability inclusion ministry is.
Right. The one note I do want to make, so some of our church ministries have some really clever names. Along the line of Access Ministry, but I'm blanking on all of them, but just make sure that if somebody were to go to your church website and they're looking for, the quote special needs ministry or whatever, that they're able to find that even if the name wouldn't make sense to an outsider. So, all right, Julie.
I'll give you the perfect example of that. The ministry at our church is called iKids, and it's you were made in God's image. That was what they were trying to capture, right? You're made in God's image, but nobody in the world knows what an iKids is,
right?
And so we have found just recently, within the last couple of months, they have done a reworking of our website, Diana, like you guys are doing. And what was wonderful was that the director pulled Tom and I in and said, okay, what are you finding out? What buzzwords do we need to have in there? And then she made the determination that special needs is more in our ministry, in our church, is more really relatable to those who have children with special needs, and they're looking for that special needs ministry, like you said, Beth. And then those who are adults who have disabilities are looking for that disability word. And so we've been able to incorporate, in fact, before the website got changed recently, you couldn't even find special needs. Like you said, Diana, you couldn't even find it on our website. And we were a little, we talked about it a lot to people that we thought it might matter to. And so it did come about that those changes were made. So you can go to Thomas Rhodes' website and see what we've done. I think it's under kids. You have to go under kids, right? Is that where it is now? But
it's
there's
still
also
hard to
adults.
find,
It is hard. It's not as hard as it was before, but it still could use some improvement, but it's definitely better. So yeah, I understand that dilemma.
Yeah, and I think we've all definitely experienced this on some level, but this is a good goal for us to work towards this year. So get your websites, get that terminology, get it searchable. All right, well, it's almost at the top of the hour. So thank you all for being here today. This actually was a great pick-me-up. I was kind of not blah going into the new year, but with all this stuff kind of shutting down, it was a little So thank you. You all have encouraged me once again. So we'll continue to do these idea shares on the first Monday of the month. We will be doing a disability ministry video roundtable on the third Wednesday of the month, and we'll get that up on the events page soon. So thank you, everybody, and have a good rest of your week.